A warning that this episode contains sensitive content, including references to suicide. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of self-harm or suicide, you can seek help from the Samaritans by calling them free from any phone on 116 123. So you said you've spoken before about the fact that, you know, you sort of felt like when you left the armed forces, you probably left about 2 years prematurely, but that was by nature of leaving under the PTSD thing. And since then, you've had this hugely successful TV career, books, tours, all of that. Do you feel like you're now at peace with everything that's happened? Everything happens for a reason, or do you still, are there still moments that keep, well, this chat probably keeps pulling you back, but are there, do you feel like you've parked that and you've put it to bed and you're now moving forward with everything else?
No, right. Firstly, don't worry, this chat isn't pulling me back. It's all good. Yeah, I think I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place because I've been honest with myself, and you know, I've been honest with you in the chat so far about, you know, yeah, I got a lot of things wrong. I looked at something and thought it was trivial. To be quite honest, nothing in life's trivial, and it shouldn't be treated as such. You know, everything has an impact and has ramifications. But I think because of that, because of being honest, because I've managed to get through my bout of poor mental health, and it's taught me a lot, and I've paid attention to what I've learned, I genuinely believe I'm in a good place to deal with a lot of things. That doesn't mean I'm not what's the word, naive enough to think that, you know, I might not trip up again, and, you know, I'll always get things wrong, but I hope I'm detached enough from my own self that I can look at things in a way that hopefully I can guide myself through it, and also understand that I'm always able to speak out, reach out and speak to people.
I think you're right. Like being honest, and it's a very cathartic process, isn't it? Talking about, you know, what may have been troubling you in the past, and being able to move forward in that way. How have you managed to overcome these battles that you have been having with your mind? I mean, how are you able to move on from those things that might be, you know, problematic or have been in the past?
So there's a couple of things. The first thing that I had to do to really sort it out was like I've already said it, is be honest. Even though I'd been medically discharged from the military for PTSD, I knew there was a problem, but I still denied it in my head. I might have turned around to someone and said, "Oh yeah, I've been diagnosed with this," but I genuinely didn't believe it, and I genuinely didn't think I needed to address it until it got to the point where I'm like contemplating throwing myself off a cliff. And I'm like, hang on a minute, I was in a bad place, and I was like, that either happens or I have to do something. And it was only then that I was like, you've been lying to yourself all this time, and it's doing you no favors. So there was that, and then there was also, there's got to be a level of acceptance within everyone that what has happened, you ain't changing it. And whether you see that as a good or bad thing, it doesn't matter now. It's about how you respond to that experience that really matters. You know, getting something wrong, failing, that really, it doesn't matter. What matters is how you bounce back from it and how you frame it in your own head.
Do you recognize that person who, I don't know how long it was ago now that you said you did that, but stood on that cliff top in Devon and contemplated jumping off it or not? Do you recognize that person? Is it still, you know, I mean, that's a crazy, isn't it? If you go through that process, your state of mind is in a whole other place. How on earth do you talk yourself out of that?
It was 10 years ago, not to the day. I can't even remember what bloody day it was. It was all a haze, really. But I think I remember having a meltdown. I was crying, not ashamed to say it. I drove up to a car park, wandered. It was miserable day as well, which probably had a part to play, and got out there, sort of realised that I've also got a healthy respect for heights. So I was a bit like, whoa. Then I was like, right, is this actually going to be something you do? Everything was falling about around me. And I was like, well, you either do this or, you're going to have to do something to change things, and I needed to do that, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to change things. I'm going to change my life around. That's what I did. It didn't happen straight away, but that was the beginning, definitely.
And did you have people helping you? Did you have people that you could talk to, that you'd depend on, that you'd go to, that you'd chat this stuff through with? I mean, was it ex-army people, or what was it? Was it family, friends?
It wasn't, to begin with. It wasn't army people. It wasn't family. It wasn't. Yeah, they became friends, but weirdly, it was. I had a job. I got given a job for a big facilities management company, and there were a couple of people in that organisation. There was a guy that gave me the job, the MD, who actually said to me, "I'm going to give you a job. It's not the job for you." He was right, but he threw me a bone and, you know, gave me a interim career. I had a car, had a salary, a bonus, and there was someone within that. There was one of the account managers. So there was Andy, was the MD. You had a girl called Debbie, who was the account manager. And weirdly, I spoke to them. You know, I can remember being in a lay-by, having had another meltdown, and I was actually on the phone to that girl, Debbie, the older lady, and she was there for me. I'd speak to Andy, the MD, every now and again. He'd catch up with me. He was the one that actually highlighted. He said to me, "You're struggling." He says, "I'm going to help you out. I'm going to always be here for you." And he was. And you know, I spoke to him the other day. You know, I owe an awful lot to those people. So they were the initial people that I started to speak to. And then because of Andy, he then got me in touch with, there was a couple of professionals that I ended up really connecting with after a while. So there was someone called Alex and someone called Malcolm. Alex, she's a clinical psychologist, and Malcolm's a coach. And I got really talking to them, and my journey went on from there, and they helped me find my path out of depression, really.
Wow. So from there and to here, that must have been quite a journey. I mean, you've been on several of them, it sounds like, you know, during the course of your life, but that must have been one of the most interesting, one of the trickiest.
I'd say it's the hardest one. It's the one I'm most proud of doing. Like when people always ask me, "Oh, what are you most proud of?" and they expect me to say, joining the Special Forces. Don't get me wrong, I was mega proud at 26 years old to have done that, but I didn't. You know, I never expected this journey to be this chapter to be a part of my journey. And so when I look back on it, I'm proud of this. I'm proud of the sort of path I took. Obviously, with the help of others, I'm very grateful for those 4 people. And, you know, and my family did come into it, you know, my mum, my dad, my brothers.
And in terms of feeling settled, you just got married, right? So now you are properly settled. Busy bickering with your wife over cups of empty coffee.
No, I know, yeah. Do you know what?
Long may that continue.
I don't bring it up. I don't bring it up. Keep it on the down low.
So the SAS, for as long as I, you know, can recall anything about it, has always been a very secretive operation. It's always been very quiet, doesn't tell people what it does. In fact, actually up until, I'm not so sure, maybe in the last 20 years or so, people didn't really know too much about the SAS, but it's become much more of a thing that we're now much more aware of. Should it be? I don't know. That's the wrong question probably to ask you, because you are somebody that, you know, we know from that past, but it's sort of its secrets are sort of what keep its mystery alive, I suppose, for the layman.
Yeah. So I'd say that we know an awful lot about a lot of other things nowadays because of media, social, phones, tech's basically enlightened the world.
Yeah.
So maybe this was always happening. Now, I don't necessarily agree with the fact. Well, I wouldn't have agreed with what I was doing a few years ago. But the opportunity came my way when I was in a real sticky spot, a very sticky spot. And the opportunity is actually part of my recovery. Now, when I first got asked to do this show, I said no. I was like, there's absolutely no way I'm doing it. I'm not getting involved in that. Then like they asked me a couple of times, and I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and he was like, "Mate, if you don't do it, someone else is going to do that." And I couldn't get a job, so I'd been medically discharged with PTSD. That means most jobs that my career would lend themselves to, I'm not going to get a job in, because as far as they're concerned, I'm branded. You know, if I go away and look after people, I'm carrying weapons. Oh, can we trust him because he's mad and all this sort of stuff. So I was struggling. I was living on my mate's sofa at the time, and I didn't have something to pee in, and I didn't have a pot to pee in, and I was not in a good place. So then I was like, right, if this is an opportunity, it's going to pay me, and if I take it, I know for a fact that I'm going to conduct myself in a way that isn't going to bring that organisation that I love and has given me a lot going forward. I'm not going to bring it into disrepute. I will try and be a good ambassador, and I will always try and do that. And I always have good dialogue with that organisation still. You know, there are times when they're like, "Oh God, when are you going to finish?" and all that sort of thing. And ultimately, I'm like, "Well, and, yeah, I don't know, but don't worry, I'm not going to tell any secrets and all that sort of thing." But yeah, it's been difficult to come to terms with it, and I completely, you know, I might have blokes that I know come up to me and go, "Oh mate, I don't really agree." I'm like, that's fine, I completely get that, but this is where I'm coming from. And you know, my friends are like, yeah, that's completely get it. I've got a good friend who actually loves it, weirdly. But
and what's it given you, Foxy? What's it given you apart from a regular salary and, you know, stability financially and everything else? What's it actually given you? Because it's so hard, I imagine, to replace the armed forces and the SAS. I don't know how you go about doing that. I mean, my husband, who's a sportsman, I'm dreading the day he retires because God knows what he's going to be like. Like most sportsmen who go through that process, they really struggle because they don't suddenly have the routine. They don't have the camaraderie. They don't get those amazing moments, which are, I mean, in your case, they can be, you know, shockingly awful, but you're sharing in something with people. So, I mean, does this come, I suppose it's a different time and a different chapter in your life, but what does it give you? Does it give you anything that sort of goes a little way to replacing the SAS?
Yeah. So first of all, the bonus is I'm not getting shot at, which is a pretty big bonus. Although that is also exciting. But it is, do you know what? I got asked this a while ago about, what do you think of this new career and the people you work with? And I had a think, and I was like, do you know what? I said, and the person that was asking me was in TV. He was a TV person. He was a director, like interviewing me. And I said, you're not going to like this, but the people that I used to be and work with, you're not dissimilar. And he's like, what? Like absolutely dumbfounded that I'd done a link between him and these like thugs that he thought we were. And I was like we all, like you, me, the people I used to work with, and all the people that are around us now, we love to have a lot of things on, a lot of projects. We want to be perfect at them. We strive for excellence. We love traveling. We get itchy feet, and when we get the chance to let our hair down, we let our hair down. I says, fundamentally, you are the same people, and it's given me, you know, you've given me a new community to be a part of, and I love it. So yeah, actually, what I'm in at the moment is awesome, and I do love it. It doesn't come without its difficulties. They're different to the military ones. You know, there's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of people involved, which means you're trying to, you know, find your way around without upsetting too many folk. But it's awesome. It's exciting. You get to meet new people, and I really love it. So I'm happy with what's happened. It does get a little bit weird sometimes when, you know, people recognise you when, you know, they don't even know who I was. But, you know, it's just part of it. And
yeah, that's an interesting facet, isn't it? Again, it comes down to that thing again about, you know, living your life sort of, don't they say sort of in the shadows? And then suddenly you're absolutely anything but in the shadows by the nature of being on the telly.
Yeah, it is an odd thing. It was very odd, but it is what it is, and you just got to embrace it. If you don't embrace it, then it will have an adverse effect on you. But yeah, it was crazy, a crazy journey, but I've enjoyed it. And it is also, to answer your question, you're never going to be able to replicate things that you've done in your younger years. Do you know what I mean? And you have to accept that. People have to accept that. There's no good moping through life and going, oh, my life isn't what it used to be. It's never going to be like that. So it's about finding the new you and how you fulfill yourself. That should be the exciting bit. Like, what's the new chapter? How can I make this exciting?
Neither of us are going to look back with rose-tinted spectacles about, you know, getting that diamond white cider or whatever it is and drinking that in a car park somewhere in a dodgy back of train station. Age 15, 16, which I'm sure we've all done.
Good times. I don't know. They were quite good at. There was if you think about those moments, there was probably a snapshot of about 5 minutes that was fun, and there was that warm, wavy feeling of drunkenness. Then it descended.
I'm just a little bit like,
horrific.
Who were those people that bought that stuff for us? Like, I remember stopping random people on the street and going, oh, can you just go into the offie and go? I mean, who were those people who did that? Who were like, yeah, we're enabling that. It's fine. Crazy times.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you about a performance tip. So for people listening, and you know, it feels, I'm going to say the word trivial, but we've just discussed the fact that nothing's trivial. What can people do on a daily basis for better performance, would you say? Is there one thing that you do? Is there sort of, because you come from this world of routine, is there something that you do every day which enables you to basically have a better day than the previous one?
Right. Apart from training, because that doesn't count.
No, that counts.
Yeah, it does count. Okay. But yeah, training. But anyway, and it doesn't matter how big or small that training session looks, get it in. Consistency. It could be 5 minutes. You'll feel better for it. Anyway, for me, it's about being emotionally aware every morning. At some point, I don't necessarily need to sit down, but I'm going to use that as an analogy. I'll sit down and I'll check how I'm feeling, and I won't ignore my emotions. I will just explore them. If I'm feeling low for whatever reason, I'll try and work out why, and then that sets me up in a good way to try and combat it or get it nipped in the bud. And that for me is a big thing. Like being present, it is one of the most important things for me now.
Is that something that you learned post-army or in the army?
It's something I probably learned in but didn't realise. So it's something I definitely did adopt about, you know, you can only be present when you're getting shot at. There's nothing else that you can concentrate on. However, that is subconscious. Now it's very conscious. Like the thing with, I'm going to go into some, how long we got? Hopefully. So basically, you don't mind me rambling, do you?
No, go for it.
The reason I say all this is because I've learned the hard way that emotions, they shouldn't be acted upon. They should just be used as a tool. Like emotions there to basically alert you to something, that there's something that you should pay attention to, and that you should think very carefully before you carry out your next move. So fear, that I slow down when I feel scared, because I'm like, right, I'm doing something that's obviously scary, which means I might potentially hurt myself or die. But the key one, and one that I have learned the hard way because I've got into trouble in the past when I was younger, is anger. The minute I feel I get like a prickly neck or like a hot feeling on the back of my neck, I know that's anger. The minute I start feeling that, I stop. I stop what I'm doing. I take some deep breaths and I think about my next move, because ultimately, if you let anger dictate an action, you will probably end up in a fair amount of trouble. And using that as the most extreme example, that's what I do now in the morning. Is, you know, it's not normally that anger. I'm pretty chilled now, but you know, it will be feeling low, and I'll be like, why do I feel down? And it'll be, oh yeah, I've got this coming up. I'm not looking forward to it. That's all right. You're allowed to feel low. Now get a grip, sort it out, get through it, and you'll be good to go. Have a look forward. I'll always make sure that I've got something to look forward to, whether it's in a day's time, 2 days' time, or a week's time. That's
so true, isn't it? You've just basically checked yourself. Just check yourself before you decide to act, because it could just be completely impulsive and emotional and actually lead to a nightmare.
Yeah, and I regularly employ that in the car, because obviously no one's as good a driver as me.
No.
No, but obviously, you know, road rage becomes a thing. But the one thing I'll say to anyone listening is, have you ever seen anyone look cool when they're angry? No. And we all want to look cool, so don't be angry. So just check yourself.
That's a good tip. Note to self. Brilliant. Foxy, thank you so much. This has been great. This has been a really, really interesting chat. Thank you.
No, awesome. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.